Alright, camera, we have one more video. We can do this. What is up, family, and welcome to the 4th video in this series of my year in review / how I survived my husband's deployment. We are in the last video, the 4th video, and we are in the fall version of this video. If you haven't seen the other parts of this series, make sure you go back. First episode is around when Brandon left. The second video is the Tennessee edition of this series. Third is the summer edition of this series, going to Disney, getting COVID, and going back to school. And now we're in the 4th and final episode of this series. So thank you guys for tagging along with me. I just want to say this right now. This is the How I Survived Deployment series. If you have any questions, if you just need help, if you need to talk to a friend, if you are struggling with this, drop a comment or message me on Instagram. I would love to talk to you. I am always up to talk to fellow military wives. I know this life can be really hard, and I'm always here if you guys need me. So without further ado, let's get into it. In September, I attended my cousin Nicole's wedding. I was the matron of honor. It was so good to be with family. Like, I cannot tell you with this whole deployment how helpful it's been to be able to see family so much. And that is really uncommon for us. We've never been able to do that with any other deployment. We've always lived too far away, and now since we're at Fort Riley and I'm from Southwest Missouri, I got to see my family a lot more, and Nicole's wedding was no exception. I got to see my mom and her husband and my brother and sister-in-law and my niece and nephew and all my cousins and my aunt and my grandma, and it was just so good to be surrounded by family. It was such a bright light in a hard year. My cousin was a beautiful bride. Luckily, I did not have to give my speech. I really hate speaking in front of people. I know it doesn't seem like that because I'm on YouTube, but speaking to you guys through a camera is a heck of a lot different than speaking to a giant room full of people. But they ran out of time and I didn't have to give my speech, so I was super excited. But my cousin got married. It was beautiful and amazing. Also, my mom got this idea to sleep in a tent in my aunt's backyard because there was gonna be a lot of people in town, and I just think it's hilarious. So there's that. My mom and Randy are sleeping in a tent. It is a 10-person tent, and there's a USB cord in it. Why is there a USB thing in a tent? It's amazing.
What do you do with it?
There's a battery pack. There's been a development. Their tent lights up. There's a battery pack inside, and it has lights in it. Right after my cousin's wedding, I went down to Table Rock Lake for my husband's family reunion. My mother-in-law, my husband's mom, have their family reunion every year around this time of year, and so I went down to Table Rock Lake and I got to see his family. I did all of the schoolwork. I killed a lot more giant spiders, and I had a snake in my house. Now, I didn't record any of it, and I didn't even take a picture of it because, like, it was in the moment. It was a big deal. I was in bed, and I heard Cinder meowing, and I figured she just wanted to go outside, and we had like a little leash set up in the backyard for her, so I went out to put her on the leash in the backyard for a little bit, and I went out and like I looked at the back door and she wasn't there. I'm like, that's weird. Where is she? Why is she meowing? And I turn around and look at the front door, and she is just staring at this tiny snake. Now, it wasn't huge, but it was still in my house, and I've never had a snake inside of my house before. And honestly, I'm not really scared of snakes. Spiders is a lot more my scary thing, but I've never had one in my house. I didn't know what to do, and so I literally stood there for like 30 seconds like, there's a snake in my house. There's a snake in my house. I don't know what to do. There's a snake in my house. Like, I just kept saying that over and over because I just didn't know what to do. And I think it was a lot more the shock factor than anything. And like I said, the snake was not big. It's probably like a foot long. But it was skinny, so I'm pretty sure it was a baby. Like, it was probably like a little garden snake. But I didn't know what to do, and so I called my neighbor Susan because she's an extrovert, and she knows all the neighbors, and I'm an introvert, and I don't know anybody. So I call her, and I was like, Susan, there's a snake in my house. I don't know what to do. And she's like, okay, I'm calling Steven. And Steven is our other neighbor who is a very nice gentleman, and he is a retired Marine. So basically, Susan called in the Marines at 10 o'clock at night, and Steven came over and swept this snake out of my house. I wish I would have recorded it. I'm so mad at myself for not recording this, but there was a snake in my house. So again, you can do hard things. You can do it. Make friends with your neighbors. It will help. I finally got my hair cut. My hair had not been cut since we left Alabama, so over a year and a half. The Beachbody bike launch, the mixed bike launch, and that is that beautiful white thing back there. I have my jacket like on it right now. I forgot that was there. I had that on there earlier. This bike launched. I was so excited. Again, if you guys don't know, I work with Beachbody, I work in network marketing, and that bike launching was a big deal. I'd wanted a Peloton for a long time, but I just couldn't justify spending that much money on it. And we launched a bike, and I bought the bike, and I got my bike, and I love my bike. I love it so much. It has totally changed the way that I work out. It is so much fun. It gets you so hyped, and so it is my favorite thing. Now, if you want information on the mixed bike, the Beachbody bike, it's called a mixed bike. If you want information on that, I will put a link in the description and we can talk more about that. But I am obsessed with this bike. It is so much fun, and like I said, it has totally changed my workout game. I'm obsessed. But I got that in September. That is another one of my really big tips for the surviving deployment is weight loss goals are a really great deployment goal, and I hear so many people that's their big deployment goal is weight loss, to get back in shape, to get back to their goal weight. Make sure that when you're doing that, you do it with love. Make sure that you're doing that for the right reasons. Make sure that you're loving yourself through that and you're not torturing your body or starving yourself or anything crazy like that. I know deployment can be super stressful, but make sure you're doing it in the right ways and with the right mindset. Find a workout that you love. Work out with your friends. Work out in the gym if that's your thing, or work out from home like I do. Like, find the way to do that if that is your deployment goal. And like I said, it's a great one, but if your deployment goal is going to be weight loss, find something that you actually enjoy doing. Don't kill yourself every day. You want to find something fun that's going to be sustainable. So if that's your goal, girl, you got this. I believe in you. You're going to do great. Like I said, that is a great goal. I think I lost like 10, 15 pounds while he was gone, and I'm back on it right now, but you can do this. The other thing I did in September was try the apple macchiato from Starbucks. And listen, I'm a pumpkin cream cold brew type of gal, and I tried it. I tried the apple macchiato thingy, the iced caramel macchiato, iced caramel apple macchiato. I don't remember. Iced apple crisp macchiato. I don't remember the name of it, but the weird apple macchiato thing from Starbucks, I tried it. I tried it with oat milk and blonde roast espresso, like my local barista recommended. And it wasn't bad, but it wasn't my favorite. But I did that, and so I figured I would throw it in this video. I attended the Preachers Conference at Nazarene Theological Seminary. So the seminary that I attend, the grad school that I attend, they were hosting a preachers conference, and my mentor and my old pastor from Alabama, he messaged me. He's like, hey, are you going to this? Because I'll be there. I'd love to see you if you're there. So honestly, the whole reason I went was just to see him because he lives in Alabama. We were only a couple hours away. So that's the whole reason I went, but I'm so glad that I went to this preachers conference. One, I learned a ton. Again, I'm terrified of speaking in front of people. I'm currently pursuing a Master's of Divinity, basically as a pastor or whatever. I'm in seminary, the school right now, so I kind of got to get over this whole fear of speaking in front of people thing. But going to that preachers conference was really helpful for me. It was just really, I think, good for my soul and for my own spiritual health, and we'll talk about that some other day. But it was just really good to see him too. It was so good to see him. I met one of the other students at the seminary that I'm going to, and I got to go visit the seminary again, which is kind of cool. I was doing seminary in the online convene format, which we will talk about for the next month. And then the final thing that I got to do in September was film a homecoming for my friend April. So today's kind of a big deal because Brandon's not coming home today, so don't get yourself excited. But my Alabama bestie April's husband is coming home, and I'm gonna come out and take some pictures for them. I see a bus sitting out front. I think that means that they're here, and it's just, him coming home is one step closer to Brandon coming home, and I'm so happy for April, and it's gonna be a good day. April is my Alabama bestie. We met April and Andrew Rose whenever Brandon was in flight school, and that was when we were in Alabama. We both ended up in Kansas, and she is like my Army sister, and her husband is an Apache pilot. He was in Korea, Brandon was in Germany. Andrew and Brandon are best friends. When Andrew came home, it was a big deal, and I got to go and be their iPhone photographer, and I filmed their homecoming, and it was the best, and I love homecoming. So here's my deployment tip for you. This could go either way. Some people watch homecoming videos and they hate them and they get really bitter and like upset and resentful, and I get that. Some people watch them and find a lot of hope and joy and happiness. I'm in the latter. Like, I love homecoming videos, and so when it got closer to Brandon coming home and other homecomings started happening, I started going to a lot of them. I would go and take pictures for people. I would offer my free services of, I will gladly be your iPhone photographer, and I like just the joy and the happiness of a family being reunited is just the best feeling. And so I got to go be her homecoming photographer, and it was so good and so happy. The other great thing about Andrew coming home meant if I needed access to a dude, I had one, because I knew that if anything happened and I needed a man to come over and take care of it, I could call April up at any hour and Andrew would come over. And I know it sounds silly, but again, kind of like what I talked about with my mom, just the knowledge of having somebody there, that if you need it, you have somebody to help you, is such a big deal. So when Andrew came home, it was just kind of a relief for me too, because I knew if I needed a man to come do something, I had access to one. So that was wonderful. And then we found ourselves in October, and for some reason this year was like the year of weddings, and I was in yet another wedding. I was in my friend Melissa's wedding, and she got married on October 2nd. You may recognize Melissa from the Utah vlogs, which I am still finishing, and I will get them done very, very soon. So if you want to watch some of those, make sure you like and subscribe, and I will link one up here. Melissa got married. I was one of her bridesmaids. The wedding was absolutely beautiful. Like, it was stunning. It was at his family's house, and it was just beautiful. It's one of the most beautiful weddings I've honestly ever been to. It was so much fun because I got to see all of my friend group, not all, mostly all of my friend group from college, and we haven't seen each other in like 7 years. Like, it was so much fun. I got to see my old college roommate and spend the night with her. I got to see Emily, my travel buddy from MNU. I got to be Melissa's wedding. Like, it was just so good, and it was such a good weekend. And then I had Convene Week. The way that I was doing grad school or seminary was I was doing online with the Convene format. What Convene means is basically everybody comes in, like all the students come in like to the actual seminary for 1 week out of the whole semester, and we do all of our lecture in that 1 week. So that's the only like in-person time you have is Convene Week. The rest of it is online, so you have like discussion boards and like online posts and responding to discussion boards and things like that. So like it's pretty much an online class, but with that 1 week of in-person. Now that week was amazing. I met some really good friends from all over the country, all over the world. We had a guy from Zambia, Africa there, which is really cool. I met one of my really good friends, Walt, who's in New Jersey now. My friend Peter is in Michigan. My friend David's in Chicago. Like, I met some really, really, really great friends in my seminary, and I realized during that week that I really did belong there, and that's something that I didn't believe. I thought I was out of my league. I thought that these people, like, I would be a fraud, that like, listen, like, I've been out of school forever. I don't use my degree. I'm a housewife that does a bunch of entrepreneurial stuff. Like, I don't belong there. And that week proved that that's just not true. So during Convene Week, I learned a ton. I was in the heart of Kansas City, so we ate a bunch of delicious food. We had great lecture. I met great friends, and I just had a wonderful week. And so that was Convene Week, and then that next weekend, I went to another wedding. My other cousin, Nora, got married. So again, I traveled back to Missouri, and I stayed at my grandma's house, and I got to see my mom and like the whole family, and it was great. So I went to my cousin Nora's wedding, and yes, if you're confused, Nora is adopted. That is why we do not look anything alike. I took Frisco to the vet, which is always an interesting experience. And listen, October is the month that I kind of started to eat my feelings. Like, I was just over deployment, and I was just tired, and I was overcooking. So I started eating a lot of charcuterie boards and like basically grown up Lunchables and just eating all the things. And I also did all the homework. Like, I was in grad school, I was taking 3 classes, it was a lot. And so pretty much all of my time at that point was spent doing homework. I went with my friend Allison to Longhorn Steakhouse one night, and big deployment tip, go out with friends. Like, find 1 or 2 friends and spend time with them. Go to meals together, like once a week or something. Just plan something that you can really look forward to. A lot of the times, either Allison and I would go out. We typically go to Manhattan, which is like 30 minutes from here, and Manhattan, Kansas. And we would like go to dinner and shopping or something. A lot of time we had Thai food. This night we went to Longhorn Steakhouse. A lot of the time she'd just come over to my house. We'd go to Aldi, get charcuterie board making stuff, and watch a movie or something. Like, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Just make it fun and make it something to look forward to. This particular night, we went to Longhorn Steakhouse. And we were sitting outside because there was a wait. And I looked at this giant plant thing. And I looked at it, I'm like, that's smoking. And then I'm like, why is that smoking? That's gonna be on fire. So I go in and tell like the hostess, I'm like, hey, can you bring out like a pitcher of water or something? Like, this plant is smoking. So long story short, me and the host guy just dug through this plant for like 30 minutes and like smoke just kept coming up. Like, it was crazy. And so I have a picture with my hands all gross from that experience. So basically, I saved Longhorn Steakhouse. I started reading a book for one of my seminary classes called Chasing Francis, and I wanted to include this in here because that is honestly probably one of the most life-changing books I've ever read in my life. If you are struggling in your faith, or you are struggling in your spiritual life or your walk with God, or having doubts or anything like that, I highly recommend this book. This book was transformative for me, and I read it in 3 days, and then I started rereading it again and highlighting. It's called Chasing Francis. It is so good. I cannot recommend this book highly enough. Like I said, if you are having doubts or anything like that in your faith, get this book. It is literally life-changing. I finally cleaned up our backyard because it had kind of been a disaster the whole time Brandon had been gone. And we also have some really big plans for our backyard that we just kind of mapped out together, and it'll be our big spring project. Like, we're going to extend the fence, put a fire pit back there, maybe put a projector back there. Like, it's going to be a whole thing. So if you want to see that vlog, because we will be vlogging that whole experience, then make sure you like and subscribe. That vlog will probably be coming this spring. I did yet another iPhone photography shoot. This one was kind of a funny story because for this homecoming, they were coming back in by themselves, and they were flying into like the regional airport. And it was late at night. It was gonna be like at 11 o'clock at night. So my friend Allison and I were together, and and it was like at the Manhattan airport. So we just hung out in Manhattan at Target in the parking lot for a couple hours waiting for this homecoming to happen. And we left to leave Target to drive to the airport, and I immediately got pulled over. And I'm like, that's weird. I don't know what I did wrong. And the police officer comes up, and he's like, do you know why I pulled you over? And I'm like, honestly, like, I have no idea. And I'm like, I don't think I was speeding, or like, I don't think I ran like a red light or anything. And he's like, it's because your lights aren't on. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I immediately felt like an idiot, and I turned the lights on. He's like, it's okay, we're looking for drunk people. I know you're fine. You probably just left Target. I'm like, that's exactly what happened. That was a funny story and a very interesting experience. And then after getting pulled over, I was still on time to film yet another homecoming, and it was so beautiful and so happy and wonderful. And like I said, I just love homecomings. They make me so happy. So welcome home, Medford. And then it was Halloween, and we wrapped up October with handing out candy to like the 1 or 2 little kids that came by at my neighbor's house. And then it was November. And November was a really big deal because that is the month that Brandon was going to come home. We didn't know it at the time because we originally thought he was coming home in December. I started doing a lot more workouts because we launched a new platform called Body, B-O-D-I, Beachbody On Demand Interactive. And so I started doing classes, and they were super fun. I almost ran out of gas, and that was an interesting experience, but I didn't. I continued to do a ton of schoolwork. I attended a surprise going away party for our friend Claudia. I started a new show with my neighbor Susan. We had watched Downton Abbey before, and then we moved on to the show called Poldark. I love both Downton Abbey and the show Poldark. Like, they're so good. So if you're looking for a good show to binge watch, which again, deployment tip, binge watching shows can be really great. Like, I wouldn't do it all the time because that kind of makes you feel not great, but every now and then you just want to binge watch a show. So highly recommend Downton Abbey and highly recommend Poldark. They're so good. So I did a lot of binge watching with my neighbor. Our furnace broke yet again. Right when Brandon left, our furnace broke, and right before he came home, our furnace broke. And in the summer, our air conditioner broke. Like, it was a rough time, but we almost got it sorted. My best friend Brittany came to visit. Brittany has been my best friend since 5th grade. She's honestly more like my sister, but she lives like 2 hours from here. So her and her little boy came to visit. I had more shopping and charcuterie board nights with my friend Allison. I celebrated Thanksgiving with my friend April, and then later that night with my neighbor Susan. And then the love of my life came home early. We did not expect this at all. It's kind of a long story about how it happened, which again, I won't go into here for just a lot of reasons, but I won't go into it here. But Brandon came home early. He came home on an earlier flight, and we had our homecoming reunion. My friend April filmed it for me, and his homecoming ceremony started at 5 in the morning. The hangar unlocked at like 3:30 in the morning, and keep in mind, I wasn't going to sleep until like 3 in the morning. So I ended up just staying up all night and coming and seeing Brandon with literally no sleep. I have the best friends ever in April and Andrew, and they came that early and filmed our homecoming. It was so sweet and thoughtful and kind, and I love them for it. And the love of my life came home, and it was the best day. It was the happiest day, and honestly, for the next like probably like 3 or 4 days, I just kept staring at him like he wasn't real. Like, it just didn't feel real. And so it was a very happy end of November. But we spent the entire month of December just spending time together, like just enjoying each other's company. We had a lot of food. There was a lot of cleaning the house and purging and getting rid of stuff. We did a little bit of Christmas shopping together. We did a little bit of decorating. I finished school, which was super exciting. I finished my first semester. I survived my first semester of seminary. I went on a tour of the historic housing at Fort Riley with April and Claudia. Now, if you're at Fort Riley, or I guess a lot of bases do this, this was so interesting. Like, they opened up the historic houses on base, and they were like all decorated for Christmas, and you could walk through them, and it talked about like the history of the house. It was super, super interesting, and something I highly recommend for anybody stationed at a military base around Christmas time. I filmed another homecoming for my friend Michelle, and then I filmed yet another homecoming for my friend Allison. Her husband finally came home. Brandon and I made our first real estate video together. This is something that we've been wanting to get into for a long time. One of our friends is a realtor in town and asked if we would make this video. And so Brandon went out with his drone, and we went out with the GoPro, and we filmed the house, and I edited it, and so we made our first real estate video together. Brandon's dad and stepmom came to visit, and we had this really crazy windstorm. Like, it got up to 94 miles per hour here. It was basically a tornado, and there was a ton of roof damage. Luckily, we were okay, but like fences were damaged, roofs were damaged. I was house sitting for somebody, and a tree fell on her house. Like, it's okay, but it was just crazy. And then the water treatment facility of Junction City flooded that night, and we were just out of water for like 4 days, maybe for like 3 or 4 days. Like, there was no water at all, which is a very interesting thing to happen when you have company over. So that was interesting. But during that time, we had family visiting, and despite not having water, it was still a wonderful visit. I went on a last minute trip to California. That's kind of a long story, and I won't give the details about it because it's not really my story to tell, but I traveled with a family member, and it was a quick trip. We just went there and back. We filmed our final homecoming ceremony. I filmed for our friends the Allens, and Brandon filmed for our friends the Taylors. And after the homecoming, the whole unit was back, and everyone got their family home for Christmas. And my neighbor's husband came home right before Christmas. There is just nothing better than your spouse being home at Christmas, especially coming home from deployment. Like, it's just such a magical, happy time of year. And then to wrap up the year, I didn't really film any of it, but we went down to see my family for Christmas. I didn't really film much of it because I just wanted to be in the moment. And then Brandon's was supposed to come up that next day, but we had a big snowstorm, and so that trip got canceled. So we're still trying to figure out when to do Christmas with Brandon's other side of the family. And that was the end of the year. And honestly, we rang in New Year's by going to sleep at 10 o'clock. We got back from our Christmas travels with my family on the 31st at like probably 8 o'clock at night, and we were just so tired and just kind of peopled out because Brandon and I are both introverts. And that was the end of my 2021. A lot of it, Brandon was gone, and that was really, really hard, but it makes it so much sweeter when they come home. And like I said, a big tip that I have for deployment homecoming is just give it time. There's always a bit of a readjustment period. Like, you've spent the last 9-10 months where you had to be independent, and especially if you have kids, like they're used to coming to you for things, and it's going to be different. It's going to be a different dynamic when they come home, but that doesn't make it bad. It just means that there's a little bit of an adjustment period, and that's okay. So I want you to know, if you are experiencing a deployment right now, or if you're about to experience a deployment, you can do this. It's hard, it's not a fun time, but when you're halfway through, you're gonna look back and be like, wow, I made it. Like, I did this. I didn't think I could, but I did. And no, it's not a fun time, but you can do this. And when they come home, it's that much sweeter. And absence really can make the heart grow fonder, as long as you're intentional about taking care of your relationship. If you are experiencing deployment or a rotation or anything like that right now, feel free to message me on Instagram. I am just a message away, or comment here, email me, whatever, but get a hold of me if you need to talk. I would love to talk to you. I'm at Fort Riley, so if you have any questions about Fort Riley, drop them in the comments. Send me a message on Instagram. I'm always here if you guys need anything. Thank you so much for watching this. If you made it all the way through this 4-part series, please leave a comment and let me know, because I'm super curious who else gonna watch like all of these long videos. But thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for caring about us. Thank you for loving our family, and we are so happy to be back together again. I wish I could bring Brandon in right now and make like this big happy thing, but he's gone again. It is now like early January, and unfortunately Brandon had to leave for about a week for work again, and so it's just me tonight in the house making this video, talking to you guys, and I'm about to go edit and drink the rest of my coffee. It definitely needs heated up at this point. Go make some supper and sit in front of the TV and edit this video. I love you. You can do this. I hope you had an amazing year, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Well done. And for everybody here, I'm just asking that reintegration is a process. It's a process on both sides, and it takes time. So don't rush into it. And if you need help on any side, ask for it, or if you see someone who needs help, please find help for them, because it's all out there. And we, again, on behalf of our church, thank you for coming to us. Welcome home. Excellent job. And families and friends, thank you for your support.
Here we go.
Are the numbers showing?
There we go. 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 Go.
Give her a kiss for the gram. Take your mask off. Yes. Woo! Yes.
Welcome home.
If you would have hugged Andrew first, I would have been so mad.
And like just push you out of the way, be like,
What is it, buddy? Oh.
let's go. Let's go.
The dog is like, give me a treat.
Hi.
Want a treat? Okay.
Oh, Brandon got better. Oh, Brandon! Brandon, look!
Is that the angry one?
Yeah, it's super funny.